Greetings and salutations to our fine podcast audience. Nathan, Ed, how's everybody?
I'm good.
You're here.
We are.
You're with us.
I'm alive.
Nathan is on. We're on number 2 of our shooting podcast today, and he's still still okay.
I made it. Yeah,
You
I'm
doing
drinking
all right?
water.
Drinking
on this
some
one.
water.
Yeah,
You got it?
A little better. Yeah.
Honestly, I haven't noticed the croakiness in your voice during this session.
There you go.
You're
I'm
doing
glad.
all right for me. But
Yeah. Hopefully you guys will. I thought Jason was going to start this one by saying "Welcome to For the Birds," but he didn't say that.
Thank goodness.
because we haven't settled on the name yet.
Okay, in the last 15 minutes. But I hope.
We're hoping somebody sent something in.
Yeah, send us some good names, not pun.
We're on
names.
episode 82 now, so we
73.
should have 73. We should have.
Ed's just making up
We
numbers.
have finished 72
We've finished 72
so far.
74.
We are starting our 72.
This is
73.
73 or 4.
You know, I was thinking the other day, and this
What is the 73rd anniversary?
I don't know.
73rd anniversary of what?
No, like the 50th anniversary is like
Gosh,
the silver, and then
nobody
73rd
knows.
is.
And nobody's making it to that anymore.
Yeah.
I guess that's
People are now giving gold out for you. Oh, it's your second anniversary.
true.
I will say this, and I had thought of this because we got a ways to go, but it's coming soon. We will reach the 100th episode. We should do something special.
We should get a name.
It's
Yeah.
going to take us
We'll
25
name it.
weeks to get a name.
Maybe we should get a pet bird.
Put him right here on the table with us or something.
I don't know enough bird types to know. I know the Hawks, the Atlanta Hawks,
And
We-
they're
that
doing
we
well
hope are
right
still
now.
playing.
Let's hope they're still
going
playing.
up
by
against
now.
the 76ers. We hope right now.
We hope right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a headline, and this one not as weird as some of the ones that I have brought to your attention.
You say
But-
that now.
Well, maybe, but I do find it interesting. This one is a lottery related. It seems that a lot of these weird headlines are around the lottery. It's like crazy stuff happens with people's lottery tickets.
The
The lottery by itself is kind of a crazy thing.
Well, that's a whole nother topic we could talk about
it's a
sometime.
crazy
But
thing.
we'll do that one other day. But here's the headline. I just thought maybe this.
I've never played a scratch off. I just thought I'd say
You never have? I have.
I did.
People
when I
give me
turned
some.
18.
Never.
I had
Yeah.
several
I
people
bought
give me
lottery
some.
tickets, but I've just never played a scratch off.
Someone gave me one. I won, I think, $50.
Oh yeah, you
sometime.
told us that story.
I
I
did tell you
remember
that
that.
now.
Now.
I think
Probably
I
the
won.
last time we had a
I
lottery
think I won.
headline.
Yeah.
So anyway, this one I thought was a little bit interesting to me, amazing to me that the people actually did this. I think this is a good story. All right, woman gets back $1 million lottery ticket that she accidentally tossed. And here's the story. This is probably the more amazing part. The headline's not amazing. This is the more amazing part. So this lady, she buys this one of these scratch off, like you just said. It's a scratch off ticket that apparently you can win a ton of money on. I think it's one of those that you pay like $30 for. Okay.
Okay.
So she was in a hurry, she says. She scratched it off real quick, looked at it. It didn't look like a winner. She threw it away right there in the store where she bought it from. Okay. So one evening, the owner of the store, he's going through the trash. He finds this ticket and he realizes it hadn't completely been scratched off. So he scratches it off. It's $1 million winner. All right. Here's the most amazing part. The lady who threw it away is a regular customer. He knew her. He had seen her throw it away. He assumes it was hers, which it was. It was one of the only ones in there at the time. And so he calls her up and meets her and gives her the ticket.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't think I would have. I don't know. Would you have done that?
What, given the lottery ticket?
Would
back
you
to the
just?
person?
You're holding $1 million.
If it was someone, this was a person who worked at the store.
The person who found it works at the store. They knew the person because they're a regular customer. They went and found
I probably would have to because I would see that person again. Especially if it was $1 million. It's
$1 million.
Maybe I'd still work at the gas station. I don't know. But I mean, if I suddenly quit and I'm got $1 million,
Yeah.
I would feel bad. So
It'd be
I would
tough.
hope I'd do it regardless of who
Me
it was
too.
if I could. But certainly I think I would there would be enough societal pressure if I knew who the person was.
Yep.
I remember when I worked at Brewster's, there was a guy who got tipped with he didn't get tipped $100. They paid for a $4 ice cream cone with an $100 bill and said, keep the change.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
He thought it was a $10 bill when he gave it. It's still a really big tip.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah,
a $5 tip off the thing. But the guy, somehow we had the guy's phone number. I can't remember the end of, we somehow, because he chased him out. He chased him out and found the guy, got him to come back, and the dude was so thankful. What you would get? He's like, "Oh man, you're such a good guy." He was going on and on about, "Man, I want my daughters to meet you. My daughters need to meet." And I was like, "Man, that's a really big tip.
Yeah, that's-
Suddenly
Yeah,
you're getting
that's
a
going a long
girlfriend
way.
out of this thing." I just thought that was a bizarre.
I don't know that you ain't met the daughter.
Well, I guess that's true.
I mean, I might
guess
not.
that's true, but yeah, I just thought
I'm just saying
that guy kept
maybe
saying,
not.
"I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you an even better tip." And then I don't think that guy
never
ever
did.
came
No,
back.
yeah,
Nor
yeah.
brought his daughters. He was a liar. He didn't have no daughters.
Now,
Yeah,
here's the
no.
thing. Did he actually tip based on the 10 that he was going to give him?
Or
I
did-
don't remember that part
Okay,
of the story.
okay.
This was
He just
years
walked
ago. It
away
would've
with
been-
the $100
like,
and
thanks.
did not even pay for the ice cream.
Yes.
I'll bring my daughter back later.
It was a scam. I give you $100 for a $4 ice cream. Tell you to keep the change. You run out with $100. I drive off with the ice cream.
Yes. It's been 15 years since that happened, so I can't remember all of that. But
Now, the last part of the story that I have to throw in there.
That's what we could name it. Ice Cream Chronicles. That's an.
I could have a different story from the ice
That'll
cream
work.
shop
That'll work.
every week.
Yeah. So
could eat ice cream.
I'd say maybe we just bring ice cream.
it does say here that the family or the lady gave the family who owns the store an additional reward. It doesn't say how much, but she did give them some type of
I would
reward
think.
for that. Yeah, I was. That was the part I was like, come on now, you had to
have
give
to,
them
$1 million.
some of that. You got $1 million.
You would think.
You got to help these folks out. So she
A
did.
$5 tip. And she brought her daughters back to me.
I want you to meet
I
my
gotta
daughter.
meet my daughter.
Meet
Yes.
my daughter.
Okay, so all right. Today, instead of questions, which we still take questions, if in case you didn't know, we are taking questions all the time.
Oh, something different's happening
Link is
today.
in the description. We need your questions. And next week, I already got one lined up that I can't wait for you guys to hear. But keep sending us questions. But today,
But today.
we're going to do something a little bit different. Last Sunday was Father's Day.
Yep.
And we actually did something different in the service that we have not done before that I recall. The three of us guys, the teaching team here at Community Christian, decided we would address fathers from our different perspectives in life because we're all three, interestingly enough, in different stages of parenting, fatherhood. Nathan being in the stage of he's raising some little kids.
Yep. Oldest kid is 9 years old.
9 years old.
So
Youngest is
9 to 4.
9 to 4. So you're right there in that elementary stage. I am raising 2 teenagers these
One
days.
who's graduated. So
Just graduated.
a young adult going to college.
Yes, and my youngest enters high school this coming fall, so she just wrapped up middle school. And Ed having all adult children.
That's right.
So that's 3 different stages of parenting, and we thought, from as dads, wouldn't it be interesting to hear what our thoughts are? Maybe, I don't know, stuff we've
I
learned.
guess you could tell us whether it was
Yes,
interesting
you
or
can
not.
tell us. But the truth is, doing it that way, we are only able to just speak for about 10 minutes a piece on that, and
Less
we're
than
only
that.
even less than that. So I felt like when I was presenting my stuff, there's so much more that I could say, and I thought, well, we got a podcast, we got some time. Why don't we just talk a little more in depth about that? Some of the stuff maybe we didn't get to go into detail about, and might be an interesting conversation. We'll find out, and if it's not, I'll just cut us off. So.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just
There you
do
go.
a different podcast.
So yeah. So I guess just sort of summarize the point you brought out in your stage of fatherhood, and maybe we can bounce off of each other some extra content on that. So we'll start at the beginning. Nathan,
Me.
your main deal in parenting young children.
Sure. Main deal was just to be an active participant as dads, to be an active role in the home. When I was thinking about how to kind of frame the whole thing, I started really thinking in terms of what are the things that, one, I know are a big challenge for me, and I see with other guys my age that tend to be a big challenge, which is, one, to be physically present there a lot. There's a big pull into work. I think work by its nature is instant gratification for guys. Maybe not depending on what your job is, but by the most part, someone clearly tells you what the rules are.
Yeah.
You can tell yourself, you can know whether you think your boss is encouraging you enough or not. You at least know, I did a good job, I didn't. You come home, the rules ain't clear. You're not always sure you're doing a good job, and there doesn't seem as much of a reward there. But if you are getting yourself physically present, then the other part is to be emotionally and relationally present, not zoning out. And the way I kind of wrapped it up was Deuteronomy 6, where the first time we read the command to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength, Moses, who's giving the command to the people from God, says that you should bind these on your hands and talk about them when you get up in the morning and when you walk along the road. And really the point of this is everywhere you go, you need to be instructing your children and building into them and encouraging them this love of God. And you can really only do that in a relational way. So we have to be people who have relationships with our kids, and in all different aspects. And when they're young, a lot of that, and this is the hard part, is your relationship is this, the way I think I say it in my segment is that you're not a friend, you're a substitute frontal lobe. That they can't always make the decisions they need to make. And so you've got to put boundaries, consequences, rewards around that. So it is the more discipline heavy. That doesn't mean punishment heavy.
Yeah.
It means instructing, guiding with consequence and reward when they can't make the right decisions.
And a thought I had as you were saying that is, because I know this is not what you mean. We have this phenomenon going on in our world these days where we hear the term helicopter parent a lot.
Oh, right.
And people will, some that is a negative, but a lot of people see that as that's my role. And I don't think that is, when you talk about being super involved in your kid's life, I know what you don't mean to be the negative connotation of that,
Sure.
right? So explain that a little bit.
Well, I think the difference is, and obviously you guys are on the other side of this, but at least I see in my role of what your frontal lobe does is it's the thing that initiates correct behavior. It encourages, it holds it accountable. It's the thing that allows you to, it reminds you the last time you did that, you got hurt. You shouldn't do that again.
I once heard somebody say it helps you see around corners.
Right.
You can see things that aren't obvious at the moment because you can extrapolate. Here's what will happen if I do this.
And I know, Jason, you can probably, maybe, I don't want to put him on the spot, but I know he knows much more, at least than I do, about the way our brains are developed. That frontal lobe doesn't really fully develop to what, like 25?
25 is the average.
Right. So if you got a 4-year-old, they're really far away from that.
Yes, they are.
So they don't, and I think this happens a lot. When you ask your kids, and I heard about this on a parenting podcast I listened to, when you ask your kids, why did you do that? And they answer, I don't know. And I, as the parent, always go, I don't know is not an answer. It is their answer.
That's right.
They don't know. They looked at a thing and thought, let's try that. And even though they've done it 100 times. So that's what I mean. And what often happens in helicopter parenting, once again, not to be too judgmental, is
That's right.
we often, what we think being the frontal lobe is, I will never let you ever make any decision on your own and I'll make it for
Or
you.
I won't let you have consequences. I have
Sure.
seen way more in my lifetime of people that I may not have the right definition, but
Right.
helicopter parenting from my viewpoint is I swoop in at the last minute to save you from consequences of decisions you shouldn't have made.
Right.
I always, and you know this, I always tried to let the consequences happen. And, you know, I try, when you're really young, I didn't want to put you in a place where any consequences could really go too bad. You know?
Sure.
That's
Oh,
right.
yes.
Yeah, there's limits.
I wasn't letting you drive a car at 16 and say, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
They'll learn from the consequences, you know, but even then, I didn't want I didn't want to save you from your consequences because consequences are the natural teacher. They are what teach you.
Yes.
Well, and they are what teach you. I know that for a lot of parents too, there are consequences. And this is what I mean by being a substitute frontal lobe is you have to impose consequences sometimes that aren't natural,
Right.
because they won't just happen.
That's
So
right.
you may have to say, I told you not to eat that cookie, so now you don't get to have any treat the next 2 days. Well, that's not a natural consequence.
No, that's
You know you're making up that consequence. But what you know is if they live a life where they get to take whatever they want, even though they know they're not allowed to, you know that does cause problems down there. So you're imposing a consequence. And the problem that I feel this because I'm there, is when that kid looks at you and they're upset or they're mad, or they say those words every parent's heard, I hate you. You're so mean.
Yep.
You don't love me, over a cookie, as happened,
Yeah.
right? You have to go, ultimately what I want is relationship, but not with a 4-year-old, with an 18-year-old, with a 20-year-old, with a 25-year-old who can make those decisions in a way. But I don't want to I don't. I mean, I will because they're my kids. I don't want to have a relationship with a 25-year-old who never learned not to take things that they weren't supposed to take.
Yes.
That's not a
Or
relationship.
who their whole relationship with me, because we deal with this on the counseling side of our job, of their only relationship with the parent is still rescuing them.
Yeah.
Sure.
They're 40 years old. They're turning to their 70-year-old mother to rescue them for some consequences again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the only relationship they really have with the parent.
Yeah.
And so to answer the question kind of succinctly, when you say the difference between helicopter parenting, and I think you said it very well, is it is the difference. When you think of a helicopter, is I am rescuing you from things, right? Because I mean that's why you're life flighting in. That's why you have Coast Guard helicopter. I'm coming in to rescue you from things. I'm not coming in to rescue you from consequences that are beyond bear. Certainly, if I've told my kid not to run into the street and there's a car barreling down, I don't go, well, the natural consequence is you get hit by a car. But when it's a consequence that I know won't harm them,
That they can stand.
yes, it won't do long-term harm to them. It's not going to do long-term harm that my 5-year-old goes to bed without a cookie. That does not do long-term. It doesn't do long-term harm that they go to bed thinking mommy's mean.
It doesn't do long-term harm that they fail a test or they
Yes.
fail a grade.
Yes, that isn't long, and I know it feels like it because and this goes more to yours, so I don't
Yeah,
want to jump too much.
that's all right.
But certainly, once you get to the teenage years, it feels like if they have to redo the 7th grade, that's going to be the worst thing that could ever happen to them. I promise you, it's not, and you know it's not.
Yeah.
It might be the worst thing that happens to your reputation.
Well, that's huge too. Yeah.
So maybe we should segue this point because I feel like we've summed up.
I think so. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, but what you're saying, I come across that a lot. What you just described is this: we take one of those things, like a bad test or a failing of a grade or something, as that's going to be catastrophic and follow them every moment of every. And what I often tell parents, and I have to talk to myself on this, is okay. Look at where you are right now. Rewind and look at some of those things did you have some of those things happen in your life? And where you sit right now, is it really as big as what you think it is right now? Does that make sense? I don't know if I explained that real well.
No,
but
yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Someone said once to me, it says, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, then it doesn't matter. And that phrase just sort of stuck with me. And it's just a general principle to try and put yourself in that. Because and my wife and I have to do this with ourselves sometimes when we get into a place where, oh, no, this is going to be catastrophic. But I always say, well, all right, did we have the exact same thing happen to us or something similar happen to us when we were teenagers? And if we have a hard time even remembering that, then we've probably blown that thing up way too big.
Yeah.
And so let's back off for just a moment, and maybe it will be okay if we let our daughter, like you said, fail a test or not turn in a project on time or something like that, because that little natural consequence that she's going to feel in that moment is going to be the teacher rather than me swooping in and all that kind of stuff. So what you're saying, I just wanted to piggyback on that and say you're definitely onto something right there. So for me, my part in this whole thing, I really wanted to focus in on, you talk about being a substitute frontal lobe. You're still doing that in the teenage years, but you're doing it in a different way. You're trying to help them wake the thing up, in my opinion. And I don't know if I said this on Sunday or not, but one of your main roles as a parent of a teenager, I believe, is asking questions. I've spent a lot of time, not enough, but a lot of time asking my daughters questions about decisions that I'm seeing them make or decisions that they're thinking about making. And I'm the one that I'm trying to speak the language of what that frontal lobe normally does is, hey, you really think that's a wise thing to do? Rather than
Remember the last time you did that?
Or rather than making the decision for them. One of my daughters just recently comes to me. She's been given an opportunity to go do something with a friend. It also conflicts with something that our family has planned this summer. And so she said, Dad, can I go do this thing? And my first gut was no, because you've got a family obligation and you should place your family ahead of this friend thing. But I pulled back and I said, I'm going to give you a couple of days to think about that. Now, here's what I want you to think about in that time frame. here's what you've committed to, and here's what your friend's asking you to do, and what do you think is more important? And after it was over, my wife was like, what if she comes back and gives us the wrong answer? I said, well, we'll deal with that when it comes. But I said, what if she comes back and gives us the right answer?
Right.
What we've helped her do is just, because she kind of knows. I think she already knew before she came to me. But it was that, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, that is in every young person. It's in all of us, but it's especially heightened in a young person, and that they just want to go there. So I'm trying to help her come to that rational, others-centered answer that I want her to have as an adult. And if she does get there, well, then maybe the next time she'll begin to think others-centered before me-centered, which is what we all want for our kids in the first place. So that was just an example of something that I think I mentioned on Sunday. And then the other thing was it's giving my kids opportunities to see themselves succeed at life. And I think, back to what you said, Nathan, a lot of us as parents, we want so bad for our kids to succeed, but what we're doing is succeeding for them. Yes. And if we do that long enough, they get the sense that they either can't, or that it's just not in them, or they don't have the knowledge to succeed. And so they, like you said, Ed, begin to rely on somebody to come in and swoop in and rescue them. I'm doing everything I can, even at the risk of failure, to put my kids in a position to see themselves do something hard, do something they would tell me they don't think they can do, something that's even scary, and then walk away from it, even if they don't do it as well as I would have, that they come away and they go, okay, I did it. It's okay.
Yeah.
I didn't die,
Or I even failed, but now I know how to get myself out of this mess. Because that often, at least with the teenagers I've worked with, that's the fear of not succeeding is the fear that I'll fail and I'll get myself in a position I can't get myself out of.
Yep.
And by not having mom and dad come rescue me, and I have to learn to get myself out of this, because we often see success as I did it right the first time. And that's what we want for our kids. But it's okay for them to learn, I did fail this class. I had to retake the class or I had to read, you know what I mean? Or I get myself in this bad position. I make the wrong choice with my family obligation, but I found a way to fix it.
Yep.
Like you said, that's a huge thing for parents to be able to.
I have intentionally not. Most teachers of my kids probably think that I'm pretty absent because my kid comes home with an issue with a teacher or an assignment or something going on at school. I never contact the teacher.
Right.
They're teenagers. They have brains. They can speak for themselves. And so I always say, have you talked to the teacher about that?
And way more than when any of us were in school, they have contact with their teachers through email.
Absolutely.
That we didn't have.
Yeah.
I mean, simple, easy ways to do it that are natural to them.
And my wife's a teacher, and how many times she's told me that I'm getting this email from this kid's email address. Ain't no way this kid wrote this email.
Right.
They'll go on and write it for them and craft the argument for them. And she's like, I can tell when it's the kid advocating for themselves or it's
everybody knows
in.
what a 16-year-old sounds like versus a 40-year-old.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think that goes to the thing, and I know you mentioned it in your segment, of the balance of influence and control and where you have to put those things that I have observed, and I know we all have, of at the stage of parenting I'm at, there's this feeling of I don't want to control. I want to influence. I want to have a conversation with my 4-year-old about why they tried to take the cookie instead of coming in and taking control. And then I get to a place of my teenagers there, and I now no longer want to influence. I want to control. Sure. I want to come in because you're blowing things up. This ain't a cookie anymore. This is a card, or this is a.
You're going to get pregnant, or you're going to never go to college, or you're never going to be able to hold a job, or you're about to go to prison.
Yep.
And I think one of the, and I feel it certainly in mine. I'm sure you feel it in your stage. It's the exact reverse. When my wife and I are out in public, and we take, to a lot of people, might be considered severe control over our kids. We're going to put these consequences. Nope, I know we're out in public. You don't get to be a part of that anymore because you've behaved not the way that we.
People are like, oh, don't do that. Let them get away with it.
Right, and we're taking control. There's this feeling as a parent that goes, well, I don't want people to think that because then they may take it to the extreme and think maybe I'm a controlling parent who's or abusive, or I'm doing this. And then there's the other side, what you just said of if I'm not controlling when they're a teenager, if I'm not advocating for my kid in the classroom, they'll think I'm an absent parent and I don't care about my kids. And that and this is just a thing I think probably in all stages of parenting. The biggest part that parenting has done for me is Jesus' teaching about dying to yourself. I have to get to a place where my reputation, my opinions, now it doesn't mean what God commands, I don't mean that, but my opinions and expectations of what you should do for your career and the person you should, and what your personality should be like, not how you should behave and treat people. I don't mean that, but I mean those kind of ideas, they have to die.
Yes.
And I have to become a student of my child and say, what is it that they need to ultimately honor God and honor people? What do they need from me? And it does look different in both stages or all three stages.
One of the conversations that I'm having most often right now with my graduated senior is when something comes up in her life that she has to take care of, and I know it's coming, I will step in, have a conversation with her, and I'll say, we talk it through, and I say, if you need me to help you handle this situation, whether it be a college situation or a conversation or just a financial decision, I say, if you need my assistance on this, you know where to find me, but you are going to take care of this, and this is on you. I'm here. You can ask questions. You can come to me. I'm not doing it for you, but I will be a resource to you. And then sitting back and standing in the background and watching that happen, that's pretty much my sole role in her life right now. And but the reason that I was able to do that and have that dynamic with her is due to what I said on Sunday, relationship, which gets us to the final stage of parenting, which is where you're at, Ed. So talk to us a little bit about that relational piece.
I want to say something about something you said as well. You said you wanted to give them chances to succeed at the teenage age.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I was really serious about, and a lot of our contemporaries thought we were wrong. I'm assuming it's still the same. I wanted my kids to get a job as soon as they could, not because I wanted them to have money and that, but when you get involved in school at 6 years old, by the time you're in 8th or 9th grade, you've figured out the system.
Yeah.
And you know how to play the game. You know how to succeed. But succeeding at school is not in any way really correspond to succeeding in life.
True.
It's an artificial environment. Succeeding at a sport is a great thing, teaches some things if it's a team sport, but it's not the same as succeeding in life. I wanted them to go work for somebody that had to make a profit, really cared about what they were doing, and they could get the esteem of, hey, there's another adult beside my parent and beside a teacher who has limited ability, I've learned over 8 or 9, 10 years of being in school, a limited kind of enforcement they can do on me. This person could fire me. This person could not pay me. Now I succeed here. I have a skill that's going to last me. It's my first skill that will last me.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember going to your point about letting them succeed. I remember the very first job I ever had was working at an ice cream shop. And the very first day was the first thing I'd ever really failed at. I was bad at it. I couldn't figure out anything because you have to scoop the ice cream in a certain way. You had to handle everything. And it was silly because it was ice cream. But I remember coming home and I was frustrated. I was mad. I was crying. I was everything I could. I did not want to go back. And then my mom said, well, you committed to doing this thing. You got to go back. And then within a week or so, but I felt good about myself. I felt like, oh, I did fail at this and now I'm succeeding.
Well, and I had kids do bad enough they got fired. And they wouldn't be ashamed to tell you that either. And so they learned, there's some things you think don't really matter, and somebody told you it mattered. You can't do that.
Yes.
And even if they like you and they thought you did an overall job that was good, they're going to let you go because you did the thing they said don't do.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I thought that's what when you're talking about succeeding, I think that's I think it's a skill. When people say to their kids, school is your job, school's a lot of things. It ain't a job.
That's right.
It ain't the same as going out and working for somebody where they care about making a profit and you got to help them do it. It ain't the same thing.
Incidentally, my 14-year-old is headed to her first day of her first job today.
Good for her.
There you go.
Way to go, Ava.
That's right.
All right. So then the last part I talked about is parenting adult kids. And, it was interesting to me as we talked about this, and we didn't really coordinate on this, but it's all about control. It's still control. And it hit me as you all were talking. It is why parenting has been such a key spiritual growth thing for me. All of us like to control. We like to control our environment. We are constantly trying to figure out how to control the other people in my world. And parents struggle with giving up control over these people that they parent, including once they become full-grown adults. And it is the constant battle still of how do I continue to be engaged in their life? I want to have a relationship. These people really matter to me. But if you regularly are trying to control 25, 30, 40, 50-year-olds, you're not going to have much influence. They may tolerate it if you have certain kind of levers you can put over them.
And you'll lose relationship.
You will lose relationship.
Now, what you don't mean by that, and I know this is true, is by losing relationship, you don't mean they won't come around.
Oh, they'll come around, but you'll be able to tell. They came around because they had to.
Yes.
They came around out of obligation. And I don't know anybody that wants to be somebody's obligation.
Yes.
Right.
When you get to a place where you start saying, hey, you have to do this, you have to do this, you will always be a have to them. And you want to be a want to.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the way I said it in the message is you want to get to the place where you can learn to keep your mouth shut and so the door can remain open.
Wow.
And it's really tough because you're going to watch all of your kids do things that you go, I wouldn't do that. Oh, that's a huge mistake. Oh, and do things that you directly told them not to do that you think not only are unwise, but flat out wrong. But you watch that with your friends all the time.
Sure.
And the truth is, with our friends and with our adult children, if they do not ask me, hey, do you think this is a bad idea? I need to have influence to steer them away from bad ideas. I cannot demand it. And influence only comes with a relationship. It doesn't come with control.
Yes.
And it's a constant battle. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. I said, it's really important that you have your adult children to still love you because most likely they're the people that are going to take your car keys away and put you in a nursing home.
Absolutely.
So you don't want to piss them off too much.
Yes. Yeah. We have a running joke in our house trying to figure out which of my two girls is going to be the one that takes care of us. We think we figured it out, but we haven't told either one of them.
Yeah, I'm figuring in our place it'll be somebody lost a lottery.
They're going to draw the straws.
Somebody,
Got to take care of that.
Exactly.
Well, I think the one thing at all of our stages of parenting that has to become clear, and I think this one as a parent of kids, but also having done youth ministry for a long time and having friends who are on the receiving end of the parenting of being adult children with kids is ultimately our highest priority has to be that Deuteronomy 6. That we would impress upon our children. And impress doesn't mean force upon them, but it means through the way we live and the way that we show the importance of Christ and his church and the kingdom in our lives, that it becomes winsome to our kids, that they also would love Jesus and his church, that our prayers would not just be, God, help them make this test grade, help them get in the right college, and even help them find the right spouse. There's nothing wrong with any of those. But ultimately, if I can get a kid to love Jesus and love his church and run after people, all those other decisions will get figured out, and maybe not in the way I like them.
Yep.
But if that's their goal and that's their pursuit, and so I just think we have to keep whatever I can do to help them at any stage. And I heard someone's my favorite. It's not just when your kids are young. If you're not dead, you're not done. That's one of my even if you've got adult kids and they're off track and they didn't get it. Maybe they didn't get it from you or they didn't pick it up from you. You still have a chance to influence.
I know for sure you still love them.
Yeah.
I haven't met any parents, no matter how old their kids are, that aren't still concerned for them, don't want the best for them. We just don't always know how to go about doing it. And at at the stage I'm at, it really is. It's a lot of cooperation with God and prayer and trying to have as much influence as you can. And you may have blown that, honestly, when you were young. You may have blown it. You might not have as much influence as you'd like to have. So you have to just pray God brings somebody that's a really good influence into their life.
And have a lot of patience.
And have a lot of patience.
Yeah. So if we brought up more questions than we answered, hey, we could continue this conversation later. Send us a question specifically you want us to address. Description is still in the link is still in the description, and we'll talk about this later. But hopefully that gives you a little bit more context to what we talked about Sunday. And so next week we'll come back. We will have more of your questions, and we will address those. Until then, see you guys.
Bye.
See ya.